I'll be out of town next week a bit.
But it was this most recent Sunday.
Yeah, it's long, but I go through it because it's like people come. Quincy's on at first.
I can speed it up.
And then Hex comes on.
Did you have Robbie on? That one time I tuned in, but I was.
I think you missed.
I had already been on for a while, and I think I had something I needed to take care of. And I was like,
yeah,
can't stick
it'll
around.
Be up there.
Yeah.
He was on for like an hour, so it was pretty funny. What's on here?
Oh yeah, and I before I left my lunch date, my buddy asked me, and so he might tune in.
Oh, nice.
He has I think now subscribed to your channel.
Good. I need to get monetized.
You're putting a lot of love into this thing.
Yeah.
It's an inspiration.
Well, and it's just fun to like. I got like I saw on Sunday, this random guy was like, "Hey, let me on," and he was this really cool Indian dude from Miami. And we're all like, it's just fun to talk to all sorts of people from all over, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to see how what you've learned about how you even got that going and how you got enough people interested to have guests for all these times. Because that's the thing that stops me from streaming, is I don't really want to stream just to have, unless I have something prepared.
Right.
Like
if you're gonna talk.
Yeah, if it's just gonna be me talking, but I could jump right in if I had people who wanted to join me.
Yeah. Finish this Twitter. Yucky cat.
Serafina.
So I just started doing the Sunday ones with Hex randomly, and it was like, Sunday afternoon. I was like, "Hey, you want to do them?" And then like we don't do it every week, but
yeah. And I had been interacting with him a little bit on Twitter before I started checking him out, like when he was on your streams, and I got more of a sense for his personality. That's a cool guy.
Yeah, he's super cool. All right, no one's here yet, so that's fine. Supposedly in my internet, so I ordered a cord that I'm going to attach to the actual modem and bring it all the way up the stairs, and I'll start doing that.
Oh, you're gonna go Ethernet.
Yeah,
so that you get. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Better. So
yeah,
Boss ordered a really long cord, and I'm like, all right, cool. We'll just.
That's a good idea, and in fact, I will remember to do that for when I'm going to stream too, because I have the ability to do that.
Yeah, and it's like it just worked. I can tell on this when I look back. I don't know if it'll be better or not. If it's
Ethernet will absolutely be better than Wi-Fi.
At least, yeah, it won't be like
it's spotty. Yeah, you won't have as much lagging and stuff like that. There have been a couple times I saw that the audio and the video weren't syncing up.
Yeah, it's completely off. It's weird if I do it. Like I feel like when you and me do it, hey Joe, when you and me do it, I feel like it's a little bit better, but when I do the streamer with other people in, especially, then it really will get slowed up. That
probably just adds to the difficulties with the bandwidth. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but internet words.
The internet of some sort.
Yeah.
Joe was there on Sunday night for a little bit.
I think I saw. Yeah, I gotta start putting faces with names better in my head, but I'm pretty sure I know Joe.
I don't know if Joe's on Twitter. Joe, are you on Twitter? He might, because I think he found me through somebody else. But now he's always.
I'm at least familiar enough from the name, seeing him on these chats.
All right, with a couple of people, do you want to tell that story now, or should we? What do you want to talk about first? Or did you watch any of the...
Why don't we just get into whatever is going on? What were you going to say?
Did you watch any of the Fauci rant stuff today?
Is there new stuff?
Yeah, so it's the same. There is new stuff, but sadly, it's the same.
It's the same little, like, back and forth, and then Fauci being, like, a slippery little weasel trying to act like... Yeah. Basically just being called straight out in his lies and finding a way to weasel around it and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's like, you're just flat out lying about me.
Yeah, well, that was kind of like one of the first ones where he goes off on his little, like, he's doing that little head dance thing. He's like, frankly, Dr. Paul, you do not know what you are talking about. And
they're good at that.
And but then the more recent one that I saw, because I found a compilation where somebody had put all of the Rand Fauci
together.
Yeah, they kind of had put them in the timeline. And in the last time I saw an update on that, the most recent one ended with him doing something very similar, except that it was more he was saying like, I'm sorry, I do not know. I just don't know what you're talking. It wasn't actually Rand. It was somebody else asking him a question about. I mean, it had something to do with the structural similarities between the SARS-CoV-2 virus and and this one that we know of for sure has been kind of worked on as in the. I'm sorry, not gain of function research, but it was the EPPP. I need to remember what that stands for. Pandemic potential. Well, he. I love the part where he trips over his words, even trying to, because they just invented this term like the day before when they changed it on the NIH website, and he's like, it's not gain of function. It is. It is now like it's so much like the Knights who say ni, where it's like, okay, we are no longer the Knights who say ni. Now we are the Knights who say icky 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 but it's like
It's so true.
But yeah, but I'm sorry, I digress. So it was like whatever the virus was that they for sure, that it's like established. Like yeah, this one is one that is involved in these experiments. And would you recognize that these two parts of it are eerily similar? And he's just and he's like, I'm sorry, I don't think that I completely understand what you're trying to ask me. And then he clarifies himself, and then he goes on to be like, yeah, and then he kind of just tries to dance around that for a minute, and then he just says a couple of times, I'm sorry, I do not know what you're talking about, and I do not know what you're talking about. And then they just cut it off there. It's like, man, the fact that this guy gets away with this.
Oh yeah, they were going after Cleese because he's like wasn't buying into anything with Monty Python. Here's
$120,000 salary to attack scientists that disagree with you.
The fucking mask.
The email you're referring to was an email of Dr. Collins to me.
Takes it off just to talk.
Email that you responded to and hurried up and said, I can do it. We got something in wire. No. I think in usual fashion, Senator, you are distorting everything about me. Did you object to Dr. Collins' characterization of them as friends? Did you write back to Dr. Collins and say, no, they're not friends, they're esteemed scientists?
How does he get away with this?
I did not that.
He just contradicts the stuff that said, like, you are mischaracterizing me, you're totally dishonest, you do not know what you're talking about.
Hey, look, I've got him, I nailed him and wired of all scientific. That's not what went on. There you go again. You just do the same thing every year. That was your response.
No, you do the same thing every year, and you fucking weasel.
Incorrect as usual, Senator. You are incorrect almost everything. No, you deny, but the emails can tell the truth of this. No, this wasn't the only time.
It's like, what the fuck, dude? Just there's a whole thread of them from today, and it's like, geez, like what the fuck? Like this guy is a fucking loser, and he's lying through his teeth. The fact that anybody, even at this point, like if you're too stupid to have like not have lost faith in him when he lied about the masks, if you're on board with everything, and you're still like
right. Well, even when I bring up somebody like Fauci to even my mother, who is a bit of a normie on this stuff as we've been over, like really all that she can do with that is like, well, I don't really I don't like I don't. I've got nothing to do with Fauci like that. Like, don't associate like me with like I don't have any. Her way of seeing things according to her, she would just kind of like no, like don't equivocate me with Fauci, and I'm not on board with that. It's like, well, yeah, that's fine. The thing I've had a hard time kind of getting her to understand is that it doesn't really. I mean, it's because it's difficult to explain. If what your view of things is identical with like the lies that Fauci tells, regardless of whether you heard them from Fauci or not, they are the Fauci lies that you are espousing. Like,
yeah,
but
he is a clown, Joe. Like it's so hard to watch him in those because he just lies. He just is allowed to lie. He's beholden to nobody. He's beholden to nobody.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely wild. Unelected bureaucrat, highest paid individual federal employee, and and he's regarded as some kind of like unquestionable. He's had the audacity to say, if you attack me, you attack science. Like, how you couldn't create a better caricature of like yeah, he is a parody of the COVID regime in and of himself. I mean, it's almost like perfect, but it's equally as frustrating that apparently not that many people see through it.
Especially after they say they hate like the
worshiping
government
him on
and big pharma and all that, and he's involved in all that shit. Like,
yeah, it's quite wild. Well, and what kind of like you've probably caught maybe the part of the problem thing that they recently did, where they, I think it was titled Fauci Finds Reality or something like that. And it's wild. Like, I really want to try to make sure I've got this down, like the receipts on this solid for whenever I really want to talk about this stuff, because I mean, I kind of feel like, I mean, such a damning moment when he's saying what he's saying, particularly the thing about clarifying with childhood hospitalizations. And I think this was his answer on the topic of like people challenging him on actually wanting to be a little bit more lax with some of these quarantine restrictions or something like that, is that he covers for himself and people criticizing him for being lax by saying, we do have to understand, just to put things into perspective, that there is a difference between somebody who is hospitalized with COVID and somebody who is hospitalized because of COVID. And it's like, did he really just say that? Because this is what we have been saying for like months, if not like over a year, that like, and this has been dismissed as like, you're a bunch of conspiracy. And these are the things I've said to like my parents, that they seem to be a little bit dubious of. Like, I don't know. I mean, how do you know that? Do you really got that right? It's like, I just remember that I found out about it. It made sense, and I verified that it wasn't that this wasn't really something that could actually be discredited. That they are in fact counting these things, and that should be enough evidence in and of itself that like, well, why do you think they brought this up? They made this point on that show too. Why would they intentionally try to make you think that things are worse than they really are? To scare you into being more serious. That's the best steel man I can come up with it. But more
money for it.
But more accurately, like, because you don't, because you have an agenda. Like, only if you have an agenda do you want to deceive people willingly. I mean, but that's another thing I'm concerned about, is that idea itself is kind of becoming normalized with this, like the idea of the noble lie and stuff like that. I mean, people get it backwards with Fauci first saying there's no reason why everybody should just be wearing masks, right? Like, no, that there's absolutely no reason why you should be doing that. These things, you know, they might stop a droplet or something like that, but I mean, unless you have like a really well fitting mask like that is like an N95 or something like that, these things aren't really going to make much of a difference at all. So no. And then later on being like, oh no, everybody should definitely be wearing masks, or in fact 2 masks, and could just not be too careful. Just, I mean, and then, you know, not pushing back against any of these weird pop propaganda things that are saying, well, maybe you should have sex while you're wearing masks just in case. Like, wild stuff. But then when they're asking him why, well, you have this opposite message. So I was lying basically when I said nobody needs to wear masks. It was necessary for me to tell that lie, because if I had told you how good and important masks were, people were going to run out and buy up all the masks, and then there wouldn't be any for all of the frontline workers and all this kind of stuff. So that people accept that, and that permeates the culture, I think, because now people think that, yeah, that's perfectly acceptable to bend the truth or to lie if there's a good reason, like we, because we know human nature, and we're experts in how to control these pandemics. So we need we need the power to deceive people, because if we just tell them this, the straight up truth, well, they're not quite going to get the hint about how to change their behavior.
No, it's true. I remember thinking that even back then. I was like, he's literally calling you idiots, and you're saying that's okay.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
saying you're too stupid. I couldn't tell you the truth on masks because you're too stupid. Your stupid asses would have gone out and bought them. And people were like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Because we wanted to slow the spread, and we thought that, maybe this wouldn't get out of control if we tried to, if it actually did that.
Good, why not? Someone just made a funny joke. I slept with my audiologist and got AIDS. Like hearing aids. Good one. Oh, Joe. Yeah, Joe, that must happen in Minecraft.
See what you did there.
Say it happened in Minecraft. I am surprised. I mean, does Fauci have like a detail? Does he have like a Secret Service detail? Do you know?
I would not be surprised. I mean, the guy has to be one of the most hated figures, which I heard a good sermon that really kind of made me think twice about it. It's like, I'm not going to probably go out of my way to criticize people because I understand people's anger, but me representing myself as a Christian, I probably used too colorful of language when it comes to how I regard Fauci. Just as a Christian, I really shouldn't be doing anything other than praying that he sees the light and comes clean. And, it's not really my business to be condemning anybody. It's just the way that, I'm a hypocrite otherwise. And I think, and I do value that. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, I'm not going to go out of my way to rebuke you for doing that. We don't have to have exactly the same worldview on things, and part of me is also going to enjoy that. But at the same time,
because I know God says like don't judge us. You need judges stuff, but in the end, judgment happens, right?
Yeah, but the idea is that we are all sinners and we all need forgiveness, and Jesus loves all of us and died for all of us,
even
and
Fauci.
so including Fauci, and the best thing that we can do, in that spirit of love, is hope that they repent, hope that they and pray for them. The Bible says, pray for even those who persecute you. And part of that sermon was our pastor saying something about how it's like, I have never met somebody who walks around with a "Let's Go Brandon" hat who is honestly praying for the salvation of our president.
It's very true. They're not. They're going on.
And it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. You're right.
If the Senate, if they're one branch of government, can't even hold these bureaucrats to anything, obviously nothing's going to happen to him. He's been caught lying. Even more documents came out about the gain of function research and stuff. And then I was just watching another video with Ted Cruz questioning an FBI lady, and she's like, I can't answer that. I can't answer that. I can't answer that. So it's like, who is holding these people?
That's what
like,
I'm saying.
There's nobody. They are doing their own. They have created these.
It's maddening. Yeah, they're ready for all the questions they're going to be asked, and they already are prepared to. If there's a question, I mean, it seems like they can get away as easily as if they don't even have an excuse, like a way around the question rhetorically, they can just fall back on. I basically I can't comment on that because reasons, and just leave it at that. Oh.
Okay.
Oh, and in the interest of time, moving on. Yeah, it seems like they're just trying to run out the clock, like in one of these sports. I'm not that big of a sports person, but kind of that there is that thing that sometimes you do when the clock is running out and you're ahead. You're not really trying to score more points because you're really just delaying because you don't want being can't find the word I'm looking for, but trying incredibly hard to score points when you're also putting yourself at risk of the other team getting the puck and getting and scoring on you is not really worth it in a cost benefit analysis. So you just kind of goof around until the clock runs out. That seems like what they do.
Yeah, we got a pureblood in the house. Awesome. Escaped from Babylon. So that Hex guy, he's a legitimate pureblood. He's never had a vaccine.
Oh yeah, you said that.
So I'm like, man, you're on my team. Like, he needs to have babies if he's spreading that, man. Because midterm, the midterms coming up. But what if each branch of government doesn't hold each other accountable? If any of the branches of government don't hold the bureaucracies accountable, then is it up to us to hold them accountable?
It does seem like that, and the question then kind of becomes, well, how do we do that? And that's been what I've been having a hard time with for a while here, because I'm not really that set on just giving up and throwing up my hands and saying like, well, there's just nothing that we can do. But it does seem real bleak because how do we hold them accountable? They've got such a strong fortified system that keeps out accountability. They're so well insured, and it's so fine tuned to the point where, of course, the pharmaceutical industries can't be sued for injuries from their certain types of products that they specifically are trying to coerce people into taking. Like, of all of the things that you should be protected from liability from, which none of which exist, things that you should be protected from liability from. But the one thing is also the thing that they're trying to take away your right to say no to.
Escape from Babylon said, if the OSHA mandate goes through and the Supreme Court, our country is dead as fuck. That is the hill of the last nail in the coffin. I don't
know. Maybe, but at the same time, there's another edge to that sword, I think, because at some point when they take things to a certain extent, they do find out how far people are willing to go. And yeah, it depends on, and I don't know. We would have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah,
maybe I can't rule out the possibility that the masses would finally say, all right, we got to stand up against this. Who knows?
Mike Nichols says, yeah, give people no hope, no access to food and medicine, take their income, and see what happens to all those ammo piles in Minecraft. But yeah,
well, what happened in the Soviet Union? A lot of people starved to death, but also a lot of people started illegally selling and trading food.
Yeah.
That's kind of one of those things about the idea of like agorism, is more people would do agorism if they had no other option.
Yeah, everyone's been trying to create the counter economies anyways. If we have no other option, we have no other option. Explicitly, again, Duke Stain says it's against the Nuremberg Code. We have to resist with our lives. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's kind of what it comes down to in that Declaration of Independence, is your right, it's your duty to throw off such government and institute new guards for our security. And it's starting to come to the point where those words ring so true with what our experience is. Like, it's our right and it's our duty. We have to defy the tyrants for the sake of survival alone. Like,
and I was thinking the other day, it's like, because I think about, I had family that escaped Stalin and stuff, and I'm like, things were so hard back then. So we're starting at we're at a different place, technology wise. we're sitting like no one in fucking Russia had a room like this, but then it's like, okay, maybe we'll be able to do it just because we're starting from but then it's like, then they have just as much extra technology and extra shit to make things harder too.
It's not going to be the same playbook, but we can still learn from the solutions that other people have used. And yeah, we just have to think that there are things that we can do, and we have to focus on doing what we can, I guess.
Escape from Babylon says, I agree, it's our duty for the sake of the sheep that hate us. That's true. It's for them too. That's what's been so hard this whole year. It's like, if they only understood, we're doing this for them too.
Right. Well, and maybe that's a good point. And I kind of, as I'm trying to kind of get more of my message out there as well, I think that's a good thing, a good point to focus on, is how I am on your side, you Karens, and be able to appeal to them from no, I'm for you, I'm not against you, I'm against what you're doing because I think you're very misguided, but I want what's best for you, you know, to be able to, as much as they think I just want to kill them by not keeping my nose covered.
Yeah, Mike Nichols says, be prepared for no internet and be more self-sufficient because then we'll able to help each other. Yep. That's why it started the whole like building the Colorado Liberty Group.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, we absolutely need our community
Yeah.
for when their system locks us out of it, out of necessity for its own survival. And yeah, there's people like Derek Bros that are trying to find their alternative kind of online network type stuff. I haven't looked that deep into it, but at least there are people thinking along those lines, and more people are going to utilize those methods as they need to. Similar with the Bitcoin thing, like I still haven't invested really much in any cryptocurrency, and I haven't. I mean, part of it is that I just don't have the money to invest, but it's also like I don't see it as this big venture for like, you know, winning a bunch of money in the you know, in the riding the waves of the thing, as much as I see it as like, yeah, it's going to be good for us to be able to use our own form of money when there's no other choice.
my form of money is gonna be my pussy. I'm just kidding. Escape from Babylon. No, that's fine. You can be on your soapbox. Possum King. Hey, Drew Snow. Oh, you deleted it. I don't know if you know, but Forest Mommy got nuked completely, anyways. But I'm back on a different account. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we haven't been getting much more than 4. I may as well try to. Well, I don't want to ruin it by making a big setup, but
What?
I'll let you know my story.
With what? With the.
The story that my buddy told me. It's nothing. It's not like a huge story, but it's
It's a good
interesting.
story. Yeah, go for it. Jump in.
So yeah, I was just having lunch with my friend, and he had been, I guess, just taking a walk at the park on like a little walking trail, and he was talking to our other friend on the phone with his headphones in. And the way he told the story is that he's kind of about to walk past this other guy on the same trail that who's walking wearing a mask, and he realizes that he happens to be talking to our friend about this topic of like the mask mandates and all this kind of stuff. So he thinks to himself, well, maybe since this guy will be close enough to hear me, out of like, you know, respect or sensitivity or something like that, maybe I'll kind of codify my language and say it's like, you know, the current situation instead of like, you know, the mask mandates or something like that. But he said, no, he thought to himself, no, I should not filter myself. I should just go on with exactly what I'm saying and not give into this I should not censor myself, basically. And so he just goes ahead and starts walking past this guy saying whatever he's saying, and I guess the guy mutters something as he's walking by, like Trumper. And I guess here's the part that impressed me, because I don't even know if I would have done this. I guess he kind of takes his headphones off and says, sorry, buddy, I gotta go, and kind of gets off the phone. And he's like, I'm sorry, sir, did you say something? I don't know if I caught you or something like that. And he's just like, yeah, Trumper. And he's like, I guess if I'm understanding you correctly, you're suggesting that I am a person who supports Trump, correct? Yes, Trumper. And he's like, well, no, that's not true about me. In fact, you know, Jesus, in fact, is king. And I don't really support either side of those. You know, it turns out, or something like this. So, yeah, whatever. Trumper's like, well, I think that maybe if you wouldn't mind, we could have a little bit of a conversation. You know, because I bet we would maybe have more things that we agree about than you might imagine, or something like that. But I guess the guy just kept on this NPC mode, like, because he has to be a Trumper because he said something negative about mask mandates, and I guess this guy must be a pretty true believer because he's walking by himself outside wearing a mask.
You're automatically a Trumper. Well, that is a good story. I like how your friend was because he was probably gonna try and like share the news of Jesus, probably, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Trumper.
Like, I'm not really part of any of these cults. I believe in the living God of the universe, like, and he's my only king. You know?
Trumper. See, people just, even someone's like, this was probably a year ago, but my mom wasn't wearing a mask in a grocery store, and like someone said something, a gentleman, my mom's in her 70s, kind of, she walks with a cane and stuff, and then so a younger guy in his 40s said sneered at her and said something like, I don't think it was political, but it was definitely so anti-masker or something. And
deplorable, anti-masker.
And I'm like, you're gonna say that to this lady? They are so messed in their heads. And I haven't ever seen someone with a mask and be like, oh, Biden voter, or I've never done anything like that. It's weird how it's
right. And you could, but you're just more intellectual honest than that, because if I even wanted to do that, I don't know that, but I'm thinking about it. Unlike them, I'm thinking about it like, for all I know, this person is just trying to be respectful, or they really think that this is a protective measure, or it could have something to do with politics. It could be a virtue signal. It could be they just kind of don't really want to be seen anyway, and they see this as an opportunity to hide, which I think is probably a lot of the case.
Yeah. Possum King says, even in Florida, we have people get pissy about the mask. I've been hearing that, especially in the high-rise condo buildings. Had a professor put a plastic tarp around his desk when he saw most people had no masks or had no mask. That's funny. Yeah, I heard a story about someone in real life, someone I know in real life, my friend Allie, and she went to a wedding in I don't know where it was St. Thomas or something, and the mother of the groom is from Florida, and she the first thing she said to my friend Allie was it was about masks, it was about this, they were scared, and she was just that nervous energy. She's an older woman, and just that. Oh, and then Allie, something came up, or she asked Allie and Allie's mom if they were vaccinated. And Allie's mom's just fucking sick of all this shit. Allie's mom just walked away, and Allie was like, no. And the lady literally was frantically oh my god, I gotta put my mask on, blah blah blah. And they're in St. Thomas outside at this resort. So Allie's oh, these people's brains are broken. And I've heard it even in Florida, a lot of stories in the high-rise condos with the elevators that people are just going crazy.
Yeah, it's this mass formation psychosis, which
shit's real.
By the way, I kind of want to even maybe go through this and figure out what the best tech setup is for it, because I know a lot of people do this where they do a YouTube video and they are playing another video and then pausing it and commenting on it. I don't know how the copyright stuff works per se either, but I'm sure I could figure it out. I want to do one on this one short video I saw. I've been starting to notice more and more stuff from The Hill, which I didn't really know that much about what they were about. I think I always thought of them as a sort of left-leaning sort of journalism thing, but I think it's, as far as I can tell, one of the better journalistic, platforms out there, because at least they're a little bit willing to not go with the status quo here and there. And they've been pretty based in general on the COVID stuff, especially Kim Iverson.
Yes,
yeah. But there's these other two guys from The Hill that she was doing one of these episodes with. I think it's called Rising, and they were getting into this mass formation psychosis. And she was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. It's insane and stuff like that. But then these other two guys were just being clowns. And especially the older one, he goes on this thing, is I don't know about that. And it sounds really stupidly, lazily dismissive of this idea. It is oh, the only way that you could possibly explain this phenomenon is these people are just crazy or something like that. It's no, I don't think you're quite understanding the what we're actually saying here is going on. This psychosis, and we explained how it's a propaganda-induced in the process by which it actually happens. And everyone who's kind of brought this up, your Brett Weinsteins and McCullough, as well as Robert Malone, they've all discussed this a little bit, especially with Joe Rogan, about how this is a real thing, and we know how the signs are that lead up to it, and that is a plausible explanation for these people who appear to have broken brains. But then this guy is kind of one of his arguments is that, well, come on, yeah, you might think that they're all just crazy. Well, they might just think that the people who aren't getting vaccinated are all just crazy. No, it's not equivalent, dude. nobody who has simply refrained from getting this shot is like it is like running around freaking out at people about like pseudoscientific stuff that doesn't even make sense.
Right.
It's like that. No, like we are talking about a phenomenon that is specifically expressing itself through people who refuse to actually think rationally and refuse to even accept facts without getting really upset. Like no,
Yeah.
no, that doesn't. It's not just either point of view. It's the same.
Right.
Like,
Let's get from you a master submission ritual for the homage. Yes, it's like it's and keeping along the religious terms. It really is like the Opus Dei, the mortification of the flesh. I mean, people are literally. I mean, it's hurting them, and they're remember all the pictures of the nurses, and they'd be like, ugh. They're like that's showing how they will hurt themselves because they are so loyal and devout.
yeah, it's like flagellation.
Yeah, with the silice, or however you say it. Simple magic. It does seem like magic, man. It does seem
Well,
like
yeah.
what would
it
break
is.
the spell? Like what would it take?
And that's the thing that people don't understand is that like because people want to think of magic like in a cartoon sense of like alakazam and then I like wave a wand and then there's an elephant over there. Like no, that's not magic. Magic is actually a rhetorical. It's like Aleister Crowley's Book of Lies.
Right.
It's this idea of it's the practice of skillful lying to manipulate people into thinking that their reality is different from what it really is. And then you can I mean in this and the role of like the elites in this case, because a lot of their thing is they just get off on having power and being able to like do something, conduct something, and then look at at all of the impact that it's had on the world. So if they call their shots like in a game of pool, like, you know, 8-ball corner pocket, you know, I'm gonna like they probably place bets amongst each other. I bet we can get all these people to cover up their faces. I mean, that's just an example that probably is the oversimplification if we want to take that literally. But like yeah, I want to let's just say as an example, like I bet we can get all of these people to make clowns of themselves running around wearing masks. Oh yeah, I bet you $2 billion you can't. Oh yeah, and then you know they coordinate their efforts, they make it happen, and they're like pay up. Like they just get off on the fact that they can pull this off. So when they can literally change the world, like they can have this like palpable impact on the world through their propaganda initiatives, really makes them feel like they're really as awesome, like they're the gods that they wanted to be.
Right. It's like anytime, even just like on a small criminal scale, the more like you get away with it once, and then they feel more like empowered to do it again, and then they just keep like as long as they can't get out.
Yeah, they got to keep on outdoing themselves. Part of it is that they're never going to actually get real satisfaction from any of this stuff. Just same way that a heroin junkie is never going to find that inner peace that they're looking for from doing more and more heroin. They're just going to keep on doing it until they die.
I think I might get addicted to heroin this year. What do you think? I'm just kidding.
Please don't.
I'm just kidding. If things worse, I don't know.
I don't want to have to hit you with tough love just to save life.
Get up, stop it, girl. What was it? Oh, after you had kind of talked about that, like how like the black magic and stuff, it is just like the repeating of a untruth and stuff. And then I was like, man, I bet anytime I share an article, that's like saying the incantation almost just by sharing it. So I've been a lot. I don't try not to share stuff as much because I'm always worried that like I'm helping.
Oh, I see.
Like if I share that article, even though it would be pertinent for, you know, someone to read it, I'm like, but whatever that it says is a lie. And then I'm like, well, if I share it, then am I perpetuating the lie again?
I guess you could be, unless you're doing an adequate job of interjecting by breaking it down. Like I think that because that's one of I think my favorite arguments for free speech is that like yeah, you can't keep the lies out of there. Like, because arguably it would be, you could think it might be good to censor actual misinformation, but the thing is that that's going to get out of control. And what's even more powerful, if you really care about the truth, is letting the misinformation be there and then diligently poking the holes in it and ripping it to shreds where everybody can see it.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to.
And then they will be immune. They'll be immunized, inoculated against the lies because they've seen the lie, an example of the lie, and they've seen it torn to shreds.
Right. That's probably a good way to do it. But yeah, there was just a couple of articles. I was gonna be like, God, look at this stupid. And I was like, oh my gosh, though, if I share it, maybe that's adding the incantation.
Yeah, because it might not be enough to just say, look at this bullshit, like assuming your friends know why it's bullshit and you don't have to say anything. Yeah, it might be irresponsible to leave it at that because some people who don't know it's bullshit
Read it.
will just read it and they'll fall for it. Yeah, that's a good thing to be concerned about. You're thinking in the right direction.
Yeah, well, whether it's spiritual, real magic, whatever, it's like it obviously works for them to repeat the false shit. It works. It's worked on all these people for 2 years now. Like, oh, I don't know, man.
You put everybody in an isolated situation, you stress them out, and then you continue to lie to them, tell them the absurd things, imply. I mean, I think part of the purpose of telling people absurd things is after you've already got their trust and they're on the edge of their seat, like they need you to have the answer for them,
Right.
then they have their own brains have to make the absurd thing you just said make sense. And that's some of it, where it's like people will believe stuff that nobody ever even told them. They just deduced that from it's the only way that their brain could make what you were saying work.
Right.
Like some of these ideas about all the super spreader asymptomatic people. Well, that's the only way that they can make it make sense that they've all been told to isolate all of this time. Like, I don't know how, if anyone has ever outright told them, even from the CDC or anything like that, that primarily it is asymptomatic people who are spreading this. I think that if you look hard enough on the CDC website, they will say the opposite of that.
Fauci said the opposite.
But people need to make it make sense that they're supposed to be afraid of anyone not wearing a mask or anyone not vaccinated, because the only way that would make sense is if they are in fact a threat.
Well, yeah, and along that lines, like thinking that anybody who isn't vaccinated is automatically sick and kill it, like
Right.
That's especially a creepy one too, where I'm like,
Yeah,
you literally think because someone isn't vaccinated with this vaccine, they're just walking around sick. That's how they've been acting the whole 2 years. We're all just walking around sick, asymptomatic,
Right.
Constantly until you take the blood of the CDC into your blood, or Pfizer into your blood. But
right. Some people are thinking that like this is some kind of evil idea that maybe even be inspired unknowingly to the humans that are even behind it by some kind of demonic spirit that is trying to synergize like the synthetic with the biological, to further separate the human soul from like life.
And then maybe they'll just keep making us sick, and then you'll have to be in the metaverse.
Yeah.
You'll have to choose to be in the metaverse, because that's the only way.
Yeah.
And your body will be plugged into a bed somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
you don't want to go too far with the like specifics sometimes, but without at least making it very clear that you're just spitballing theories. But yeah, I mean it's still good to consider that those wackadoo ideas whatever happens in the future, the way things are going might not be that wackadoo after all.
No, like they're half of it's stuff that's
already happening.
Yeah. I was thinking that the other day, like what if you're in the metaverse and you get kicked out of the metaverse, what happens then? Because
if you die in the metaverse, you die in real life.
Yeah, like what if real life, what if just spitballing theories that
they'll cut off your supply of ground up insects that gets
absorbed into your tube because you have a tube. Oh my god. In Minecraft, it won't happen. It won't happen. It can't happen.
No, I'm not getting in the pod. I might eat bugs, but I'm not getting in the pod.
Yeah. Tanner is a needle. Poor buddy.
He's a little wiener.
He doesn't want to get in the pod.
No, I won't let him.
No, they will never. Poor guy.
Tanner is going in the pot over my dead body. I'll tell you that right now.
That's so true. Sarah too, wherever she was up there, I don't know where she went. Sometimes she hides under the couch and then comes out like 2 hours later. I'm like, well, you're such a cat. Like that's what cats do, you know. We could think of some. We could talk about something maybe a little bit more happy or.
Oh yeah, like ideas and stuff like that. Well, we got to be doing. I mean, I'm still excited for more parody projects. I'm excited to do. I mean, we haven't made any real steps toward this, but we're doing it. We're making the dance parties things happen because, I mean, as like you're saying with the stock show thing, is like, well, maybe we won't be able to do our own alternative stock show, but that's the way. I think we need to start thinking about this stuff. Is if they're gonna continue making us second-class citizens, we just need to become citizens of our own community, and our own community isn't going to have first and second-class citizens.
No, anyone's welcome.
Anyone's welcome, and we aren't going to subject anybody to silly rules that are of the evil one.
That night you stopped by, was it Saturday night? Yeah. I really wanted to go, but I was so tired by that time. But the Johnny Hurley, so We Are Changed, they put on this huge, it's for 12 hours. It's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And they, I wanted to go mainly because I know they didn't give a fuck about that. Most of them are against vaccine mandates and stuff. And I was like, oh, wish we would have went because it would have just been nice to be around the people. But I made a donation, so I could at least feel good about it. But I was like, oh. But that's the kind of shit we need to look for more. Oh, and there's someone else who was telling me, he told me it's a good idea too. But that's his idea. I'll tell you about it. We're off air, but like it'll be kind of funny because it would be actually like kind of pranking, but it would be funny, like
almost like Tom Green style trolling, where you actually involve other people that are
someone
unknowing
would be like secretly videoing, and it wouldn't hurt anybody. Like his idea was great. I'm like, it doesn't hurt anybody.
You could even censor out their faces if you needed to.
Well, it's like because he needed a group of people for that. So
I love it.
Do it.
I love it.
And he's a musical. I don't know if you've seen some of the things I've shared, but his cerebral. He sometimes hops on. I gotta have him over to chat too sometime, but because he lives in Littleton.
I think I have noticed with some of the guests you've had some things about them being musicians, and I've been meaning to check out their stuff.
Yeah, he wrote a parody song about Kyle Clark recently.
Oh, cool.
I
I really need to get on that. I've been talking about doing parodies for a while. That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. And Hex does music too, right?
Yeah, Hex does. He records a lot of music.
That's awesome.
I don't know if no one's commenting if my internet went out. It looks like it's still going.
It seems. I mean, we've got the biggest audience right now that we've had on the show.
Holla, Ocho. Yeah, I'm excited when I bring that cord up. It'll just be a lot better. Maybe I'll get another camera too. Although this camera's not bad. It's not the best, but maybe with the solid cord, it'll all work a little bit better.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been thinking about maybe learning a little bit about your setup for my sake, and also me like sitting down with you to see if I can offer you some pointers about improving your setup.
Yeah.
Because I've got a little bit of background and stuff like that, and this works and stuff, but I'm sure that, improvements are always improvements.
Somebody was here one day, I'll tell you who afterwards, he came in here and he was like, this is the best podcast setup there is. You could just turn it one way and the other way is better than what he had. And I was like, yeah.
And it's better than mine too, because my difficulty is I've got I guess I could just go straight from my phone. But I've got I've got a camcorder that doesn't actually work as a webcam, unfortunately. I've got my laptop that is a little messed up, that is hard to move around, but it's got its own built-in webcam. And I think if I'm doing streaming, I should just set it up as a phone on a stand.
In the summer, I want to do more from the treehouse down in Larkspur. So then I can hire you because I need an actual camera because we can't do internet there. So I need an actual camera that I'll have to film.
So while streaming, we'll just record it?
Yeah. And then
I love it.
Yeah. And I want to have more of I want to redo not redo it, but I want to bring carpet up there and some bean bags.
Yeah. And that'll be a good setting to do other silly things, including skits and stuff like that.
It'll be fun.
Maybe we can even get a live audience, get some chairs and do a...
Invite people over. Hey. Doing the trios shirt. That's
Like
what I'm
Shakespeare at the park.
Yeah, because that's where I had that picture. I remember it was like no feds allowed, and I have my
Mhm.
ski mask.
I love that. That made me so happy.
I need to put that one back up. That was a good one.
No
I was
fed
trying to
the
like.
dow.
I was trying to like.
Donkey.
That's why I put my picture in there because I'm trying. I'm already back almost to 10,000 followers, so I'm like.
I know. That's why I was all I was trying to do was to I wasn't trying to make light of the situation because it was really wrong what they did to you. But I didn't want you to I was afraid you were gonna go a little bit to like despair on that because it's like you are this magnet and I just wanted you to know it's going to build back up. It's going to be fine. And it's already starting to. You've already surpassed me, and is what you do well, and that's why you get the followers that you get.
Yeah, I'm like,
so keep
whatever.
doing it. It's gonna get
That's
back.
so sweet. You're like, because I mean, I was a little bummed, but then I
I
was
would've
like,
been
whatever. I'm
too.
still on there. Like, I'm still on there. You
Yeah.
know, I was on there right away. I already had that other account, so I was like, whatever.
I would have been pretty bummed too, but what you do works. If I had to rebuild back my account, for all I know, it would take years before I got back up
Just
to
gotta show your
5,000.
booty. That's all you need to do.
I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as that.
It
I think maybe it's a combination of booty and the fact that you have based and simple takes, and yeah, what you say resonates with people, and it's smart.
Possum King says, you hear that supposedly a smart gun is going to be on shelves this year. Pics released so far looks like a 3D printed Glock clone with oddly placed finger scanners, assuming prop model will be equally shitty. So like a smart gun, like it'll be like electronic. Is that what you mean? I haven't heard anything about this. Some states are fat got laws as soon as one hit the market. Oh, I don't know. I still haven't printed. I haven't printed a gun, but I have everything ready. I just have to figure out. Maybe you can help me with that another time too.
I would love to.
Because I have to somehow get stuff from.
It'd be a learning process for me, and I like fiddling with stuff. I'm a dude.
Oh yeah, Colin. I know Colin, but I've seen your booty in real life, so that's all that matters. It's funny. I haven't heard about the smart gun thing. Whenever I think, and did you ever see the movie? I think it was In the Line of Fire. It's a Clint Eastwood movie with John Malkovich, and he like makes a little gun back in the day because it's like late 80s, 90s movie. I still forever will always think of that because he like makes a little plastic gun.
Yeah,
that works, and I'm like, that's what we're all doing now. We're all making these guns.
Isn't that wild? And so many people thought it couldn't be done.
Couldn't be done, but look at. And they're gonna try. They're gonna try. Like I've seen some like lawmakers say shit like, "These people can just print guns," and it's like, "Yeah, bitch."
Yeah.
Like,
that's right.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be able to feel like somehow you have the ability to stop it.
Yeah.
You can't stop the signal.
Can't. You guys aren't the only people who are allowed to have your hired guns.
Yeah, and I mean, and the audacity of like of thinking that you get to be concerned. Well, I'm an officer, and obviously I need to have this, but all these just we can't just trust any old regular civilian. It's like, yo, we can't trust you guys.
Yeah,
that's the point.
You make wars. I don't.
Yeah, you guys can't be trusted. You are in it with the most dangerous criminal minds that this world has to offer. So no, you don't get a say in whether we have the right to be able to defend ourselves against you.
Right. That's so fucked up. But just that alone, like anytime someone's a little scared of guns, I'm like, listen, these people go to war. They start wars. And whether you support a war or not, you can't logically say that it's not violent and innocent people die and you bomb airplanes.
And when they murder people in cold blood in the middle of like a drunk dude that got seen with his extermination thing, like he got seen apparently through a window in the hotel. And then this guy comes out with his AR-15, the police officer that is, and I think on his gun it said like "you're fucked" or something on it.
Yeah.
The guy is bullying the guy. It's all on video. It's obvious who's in the wrong. Murders the guy in cold blood. Not only can you do that as a badge holding officer, but you also get to not face any consequences.
Nope.
So yeah, no, you
That whole
don't
shit's
you
so
don't get to
fucked.
tell us that we don't have a right to bear arms. The idea that you would even suggest that.
Yeah, the guy that did you watch the interview on Thaddeus with Daniel Shaver's wife, Lainey?
Oh,
It's like it makes
my.
you cry, but it's on YouTube.
I want to
Watch it
cry just
sometime.
thinking that like his wife is talking about him.
Oh yeah, I mean it was hard. Even just she could. It took her like 2 days, I think, just to
Oh,
find out what
imagine.
happened. She called the cops. They wouldn't call her back. The hotel was hanging up on her every time she called the hotel. Like she didn't even know what happened to him for like over a day. Like it was so messed
And
up.
to be her knowing that she will probably not see any justice.
Oh yeah. With the least bit concerned about the anti-gun people, we are so far. Yeah. I'm not worried about them. It's just a matter of if they're NPCs and they're control and they can control. Yeah, and so that the guy who was yelling out the commands to Daniel Shaver, he literally quit right after, or he like retired right after it happened. So
Yeah, but then they let him back on just so that he could get his pension, and
Well, that
then
was
he
the one
then he
who
went
shot.
into early retirement.
Yeah, so like, and then he got one of them got able to do bankruptcy, so he was able to like clear his slate and start over, and then get like it was so fucked up.
Never went
man.
to jail, which is what you usually do when you are a murderer.
Usually, but it's okay. Like just like the guy who killed Johnny Hurley, it was just an honest mistake. It was an honest mistake.
And the guy that killed Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah.
I guess he's not gonna see any accountability for murdering somebody, for standing at a building. This one lady on Twitter was saying, "It's like, well, she had a backpack. You don't know what might have been in that backpack. Okay, what are you suggesting? She's a suicide bomber?
No one was armed there that whole day.
Assuming just anybody with a backpack, I guess, is a suicide bomber. I mean, even in the airport, they only assume that your bag might have explosives in it if you leave it unattended.
Right. Yeah, not while you're just walking around with it.
Well, it's on your back.
That's more the like changing all the whole summer last summer, and then what happened with George Floyd riots, and then that it's just like that's like the changing of truth and the changing of everything.
Oh yeah, and they know what they're doing. And they're messing with us. Like when the James Corbett did a pretty good job in his like fake news awards of the year 2000, I think, and I'm sure there will be another one coming up pretty soon for this previous year that should be good.
Okay.
But he goes over some of those moments, including the guy standing with flames behind him saying, "Well, these are mostly peaceful protests." Whoever's writing this stuff and conducting this, they know exactly what they're doing. They are trying to break people's brains. They are filling, like they are bombarding you with Orwellian double speak intentionally, because this is going to make it difficult for people to think.
Yep.
They're not going to, like those old things they'd say on the Hot Topic T-shirts and stuff like that. Think it's not illegal yet.
Or the bunny.
Yeah, and stuff like that is like, yeah, well, they might not just straight up say we're gonna make it illegal for you to think. They know enough people have read Orwell. They're not gonna just straight up call it a thought crime. They're gonna go about it in a more sneaky kind of way. They're not, and before they just make a law that says thinking is now not allowed. Instead, they're just going to find these ways of making you unable to think, and you won't even know that you're not thinking anymore.
Oh God, that's so scary. Yeah, I remember that right after the riots. I'm like, yeah, I understand there were actual peaceful protests where people just did it, but that's not like the majority. Like what was happening last year was people were being attracted to it because of the like violence and stuff.
And the problem that we have is not with protesters who are being peaceful. We are having a problem with the ones who are setting shit on fire and robbing people and beating them to death. Those are the people that we are talking about, who we are concerned about. You cannot excuse those actions because some other people loosely, either you're arguing that they're tightly affiliated, in which case they are complicit, or you're arguing that they're not really affiliated, in which case we're not talking about the peaceful ones.
Right. Yeah, it's like if I'm talking about something violent, I'm talking about something violent. I remember arguing with someone on Twitter, which that was my problem, arguing with something on Twitter. But like, yeah, and I was like, did you not see all these videos? Do you think all of these videos are fake and wrong? Even though it's not all the peaceful there was shit burning. There was people dying. David Dorn. I think they said 20 people died in total in all the riots and stuff last year, but the Ashley Babbitt, that didn't matter. That didn't matter.
Yeah, what really mattered on January 6th was that AOC was scared and she hid in the closet.
Lord, I cannot believe that shit sometimes.
I mean, she's our darling commie girl that actually is a fascist that is in lockstep with the Democrat establishment. But she's our darling, and you can't be making her scared. That's a bigger crime than murdering somebody who might have supported Trump.
I know. I was going to look because I thought I saw on Wikipedia they were still trying to say that there was like those 3 cops who died afterwards or something. They were still trying to say it happened on the 6th, but they were like,
But they didn't.
No, no one died that day.
I don't know if I know the specifics of these 3 people. So this is something that the people who are still kind of making this big deal out of the whole thing, like worse than 9/11. They're mentioning something about 3 police officers that were killed.
Yeah, they were like, one lady died, and then three officers died, but then it said like of natural causes. Like, so it wasn't even that they died that day or something. I'm trying to fight it.
Of natural causes?
Yeah, because they did. Well, one died of like a stroke. Like 2 killed themselves. I'm pretty sure.
But they would just like look at this, and then they can just give you the information that will sound like it supports the narrative.
It resulted
it resulted in them dying.
Yeah, look right here. It says right here. It resulted in the suicide of 4.
And this is on Wikipedia?
Yeah, this is the Wikipedia page.
Fuck Wikipedia.
It's okay. So January 6th resulted in the suicide of 4 responding officers. Like, no, that's not like. That's double speak right there.
Well, and if it resulted in their suicides, maybe it's because they were involved in it in their conscience. They just couldn't they couldn't stand the fact that they were participants in this false flag operation from the federal government. Maybe that's why they killed themselves.
Right,
or maybe they quote unquote killed themselves because they saw what actually happened and they were going to tell the truth about it.
Yeah, they got Clinton.
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that's what it really was.
It says the suicide of 4 responding officers, then in their deaths it says 1 from gunshot, Ashley, and then the other 4, 1 from drug overdose and 3 from natural causes. How is a suicide a natural cause? And it says that literally right next to each other.
Well, it's the natural result of shooting yourself in the head. It's natural.
Hell?
It's natural that when your blood escapes your body, then sometimes you die if it's a large enough amount of blood.
So ridiculous.
It's natural.
It's so ridiculous. Like, there's no, and then someone will, of course, if you argue with someone about that, they'll pull that up and be like, look, see, all these 4 other people died because of the insurrection.
Yeah, and they don't even care they don't even want to hear you say, okay, yeah, and this is the point. This is what you're using to make your point, and this is why it's dubious. At this point, they don't care. So it's like I am starting to realize I am foolish to even go around in circles with these types of people, like the same types of people that accosted my buddy, the guy that repeatedly told my buddy that he was a Trumper at the park, is like, yeah, when he's telling me that, I had to blurt out and be like, these are these people from Twitter, like they actually exist in real life.
They do.
And even after you point that out, like I usually don't even bother because I'm like I'm not gonna let this get derailed by me telling you who I don't support or who I actually support. I'm just going to keep trying to focus on facts. But then even after somebody else sets it straight, do you realize that nobody who is pushing back against you in this thread is a Trump supporter? In fact, most of us are anarchists.
Right.
And then, but then they'll still later on play that same card, and then it's like, why have I am the idiot for even continuing to engage with somebody who won't at least just let go of that thing you were trying to use because we just told you why it doesn't apply.
Right. But
it doesn't apply, and it was stupid of you to use it even if it did apply, but you're still using it. Why haven't I muted you yet?
I know. It's so hard sometimes.
Well, then my friends will all like, start commenting on their stuff after I mute them, and then I'm curious, so I unmute them just to read what they've been saying, and then I'll feel provoked to say something again, and then the whole cycle repeats itself. Yeah, that's why I'm trying to focus less on not tweeting as much, and more on doing other things or not tweeting.
Right, that are better.
Yeah.
Well, more productive, at least.
Yeah, because I've got ideas I want to share, and I just think that I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot by only sharing them in that one way that's not really that fruitful.
Right. I know, we just try to well, just sometimes you think, no, if I tell them this one thing, they'll get it. They'll get it if you just say this one thing and they don't.
Well, no, they have no intention of getting it. That's the problem. Occasionally, I've come across some people that really are arguing in good faith, and they actually will ask honest questions. Usually, that's on the topic of those kinds of people are the kinds of people that remind me of myself back when I was more like the Bernie bro type. If somebody like myself now had engaged with them on social media, I would have been asking them those questions. I'd have been like, well, why do you think that minimum wage actually harms poor people? Like, sometimes they'll actually ask, what does that mean? Like, there's one guy who had like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo as his profile picture, and he even had like these like hammer and sickle things, and he was making this point about capitalism, and I was mentioning, and something about minimum wage came up, and I was like, well, here's why that actually is bad for poor people. Yeah, it's going to actually kind of price you out of the market. And he was like, how? And I was like, well, here's how. And he wasn't just being full of shit. He was just like, he seemed like he honestly wanted to know why I was saying what I was saying. That's rare. I appreciate that. For all I know, he ain't a commie anymore after that conversation.
Hopefully. I'm going to the bathroom real quick. Entertain the people.
Well. All right, what we talked about? I'm going to draw inspiration from the Twitter because Forest Mommy is taking a leak. This is a silly topic in my mentions right here that I kind of wish I hadn't even started. I don't know. Do you think it's worth speculating on this Bob Saget thing? I didn't really dig in. Maybe they've provided more information.
I think some doctor said well, it wasn't no sign of drugs or anything. So
right, but that's all that I saw initially. Was all it said was that there was no sign of drug use or anything like that, but they didn't suggest what he died of or something like that, which made me very suspicious.
And he had done a show that night.
Really?
Yeah, I guess he had done a 2-hour show.
He didn't seem to be in bad condition or anything like that.
I did read someone say but I mean, if you're in a crowd, and I don't know how well you can tell if someone's sick or something, but excuse me, I'm not sick. I did see someone say something
goodness.
You want some COVID?
Yes. If you got that Omicron, I'm looking for it. Anyone got it? I want it.
We need it on the black market. But then who knows? Yeah, someone said he did look a little sick, but I'm like, well, he just still did a whole show. So, I mean, he was probably okay. I'm sure they have ways to hot mask and hide there as a professional doing it for fucking all his life. But
I don't know though. If you're sick in a way that your life could potentially end that night, usually you're not doing a show.
Yeah, you would be really.
I mean, yeah, weird things happen. Sometimes people's hearts just stop.
December 13th, he had the booster. Okay.
Well, isn't that interesting? What's that about? Yeah, I mean, so that adds some plausibility to my theory there, which, yeah, I feel like I shouldn't. It would not be proper for me to speak as if oh, that's totally what happened. That's the kind of stuff that has kind of gotten Alex Jones some legitimate criticism. I don't know.
Well, it's okay
I don't
to say
know,
I'm
but
speculating,
maybe there's something to it. And as I think I mentioned on Twitter that that what I can say for sure is that if that is in fact what did it, the last thing that they would do is tell us. So what are we supposed to do other than speculate?
It's crazy. Yeah, we have to. I joked about it under. I was on the stream when I found out, and someone was like, "Oh my God, Bob Saget died." Then right away, someone's like, "Well, he was a pedophile." So, because I'm like,
Was he?
I don't know. And then I'm like, I've never heard that. But then I'm like,
I
Hollywood.
mean, he was raunchy.
And
I mean,
people in
yeah.
Hollywood.
And he was a raunchy jokes guy who eventually was on this family TV show, like with kids on the
Yeah,
set.
to make him
So
look
maybe you could speculate. I don't know if there's any
But
evidence.
he probably wasn't. I don't know.
I definitely don't like the way that people do seem to just be like
Jump on
he
that.
probably was because A, B, and C. Like, come on.
Yeah, you
Like,
don't know for sure.
let's not go that far. I mean, yeah, I think that that's one of those things that is that big of a deal that you don't throw that around lightly. You don't just assume, unless they're maybe it depends on who. Well, I don't do that with Fauci, who I kind of want to assume is engaged in that kind of stuff. I don't even want to go as far as speak like that. Like, oh yeah, you know, Fauci is up to that kind of stuff. No, I don't. I'm not going to say that.
I don't know.
It wouldn't surprise me. Well, it kind of reminds me of what pissed me off about that bullshit thing that happened with Maynard James Keenan, who doesn't really spend much time on Twitter, but some anonymous account came out of nowhere to Me Too him and was talking about this time that Tool was on tour, or maybe it was A Perfect Circle, but it was like, I think during the 90s, and this person was saying that she was 16 and he was, or older than that, and a legal adult at least at the time. And saying that he invited her onto the tour bus and all this stuff went down and stuff like that, and made this whole thread about it on this during the peak of the Me Too stuff, and then everyone is talking about it on Twitter, and everyone's like saying it's like, and he's really silent about it. He hasn't even commented on this or anything like that. Oh, and then he finally comes in like 2-3 days later to just leave a single tweet. It's like, so I don't spend a lot of time on Twitter, and I don't really owe anybody a response to this kind of clickbait bullshit. And so kindly go fuck yourself. It was basically his message on that, and people were like, oh, did you see how defensive he was? Oh my goodness, he just wanted to dismiss this. It's like, yeah, what would you have done if this came out of nowhere and it probably had no truth to it?
Yeah, no matter what you say, like,
yeah, no matter what you say. If you deny it, oh, he's denying it. If you confirm it, oh, he really did it. Like, what? It's like
all that stuff got. And what's so funny is how tribal all that shit was too. Like, oh, and I felt bad for him. Aziz Ansari, he's like Indian. He was on Parks and Rec.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
a comedian, and someone Me Too'd him, but like. You read her story,
but it sounded like he was just an awkward dude
sex.
that had a regret. Like she regretted that she hooked up with him.
That's
yeah, that was kind of the thing. Is like, yeah, if we're really going to call somebody a creeper because we had sex with them and it wasn't, and in retrospect, it wasn't a pleasant experience.
And then they can just do that, like ruin people's lives. Yeah, go fuck yourself. Is always a good response. Yeah, I felt bad for him, and even.
But my point on that Maynard thing, though, was I remember seeing people in the thread who were like, "Yeah, he's kind of a weirdo. I could totally see him doing that." That's the thing that pisses me off when people act like that.
Yeah.
Like, what if somebody said that about you? Oh, I think that you're kind of weird. Somebody accused you. I'd be very likely to believe it.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
I would even say that, like with the Louis C.K. thing, I would say. Well, those girls obviously were just, they went back to that room knowing what they were gonna knowing what could possibly happen. Like you could say that to everybody. Like,
yeah,
if something happens to you, then it's because you're weird or this.
Right. Yeah, that's not.
But Joe Biden's allowed to fucking snip kids, and that's all good. Like that's fine. That's not a Me Too or anything like that. Like.
Right. Oh my goodness. And I remember when I was showing my mom all those pictures too, because she seemed to not really get the severity of the situation. No, I'm not really throwing this around lightly. It's like, yeah, it seems like maybe he's kind of sniffed kids. It's like, here are all of these examples of him sniffing a kid,
touching.
even after people have been like, hey, you should probably not sniff kids. I love the way Dave Smith is, and he still won't stop. He will not stop.
And touching them, just like touching them weird. Like my
It's
grandparents
like,
never
well,
touched
he
me
doesn't,
like that.
you know, he doesn't, you know, it's just his culture from, you know, it's like he's from an earlier time when that wasn't really considered as weird. Why are you making excuses for this creep?
Oh yeah.
Well, same reason why you can't
Colin.
talk about the true story about Hunter Biden's laptop. You can't talk about it because it's dangerous misinformation in the same way that anything about adverse effects of shots is dangerous misinformation. Not because it's untrue, but because in the case of the Hunter Biden laptop, because it might hurt his chances of beating Trump, which is the most important thing that can happen, and the reason why any discussion that is truthful about adverse effects of the shot is dangerous misinformation as well. If people hear about that true thing that's happening, they might be hesitant to get the shot. Yeah. But you've already decided that that's the most important thing, that everybody gets the shot, regardless of how dangerous it might be, because reasons.
Oh, hemorrhoid cream. That's a good joke, Lupin. Hemorrhoids are no joke. Hemorrhoids are no joking matter.
Yeah.
People anymore. There's digital. I know that's the thing. Like every video you see of Biden is like, is it even real? Like, is it some of the ones that I've shown were like
I don't know
his
how
hands go in front of some things that like should be in front of him? Like,
oh, you're saying that some of these were actually fake, like fake pictures or something?
I mean, who would know? Who would know?
I don't know.
Or the ones where, I mean, they did show
I
him.
hope that people aren't doing that, because they shouldn't need to point out that.
They
He
did
does
show the
do
one
this.
where they were in a basement or something, but it's set up to look like he's in the White House. I mean, and that was so the cameras were showing it looks like he's like at a White House with a window behind him, and then they like it's literally a stage in some basement somewhere. Which I mean, that's not necessarily wrong.
That seems like something
like,
they would do.
Yeah, but like, why? Like, why? You know, it's just like one of those weird things.
Yeah, there's a lot of things with that.
And who knows? And that's when the mask started coming out. I said this really early on. I said the mask, they could be dubbing a voice. They could just be dubbing some voice in order to, you know, pretending.
Yeah, they could absolutely be doing that. And if I were one of the handlers, I would definitely consider that as something in my toolkit, because this guy is not. The adrenochrome isn't working as well right now. We can't get the guy to understand where he's at, you know. So instead, we just need to make sure that he is doped up enough to stand there with his mask on and then wiggle his face while we overdub like something that we want him to actually be saying to people. It'll make it sound like he can finish a sentence.
And they could even like make his voice from a computer too. So it's not even like that he has to record it or you know.
And he doesn't even have to wiggle his face. They could probably CGI that part. Well, it's like, I mean, I'm still kind of like, it's one of those things I knew it's not really worth trying to make a huge point out of, but I still couldn't see it. I couldn't not see it when Bill Gates posts his photo on Twitter of himself getting the shot. Well, the part of it that makes my theory kind of dubious is that, like, well, if he's going to fake it, why wouldn't they just not actually inject him? Why wouldn't they just fake the injection and not instead use a prop like person? But it looks like a prop person. It looks like somebody whose eyes kind of look like Bill Gates's, but not quite. And his ears don't look like they're the same shape as him. And he's wearing a mask, so that makes it so that it's kind of hard to really be able to tell.
Right.
And I could not find a single photo of Bill Gates wearing a mask.
Yeah.
Aside from that one.
That was dumb. Colton, his name's Tanner. Yes, we are being trolled. There's like they fucking can. No, that whole. I mean, do you remember? Did you ever see the movie Dave?
No.
It's not Kevin Spacey.
I know of a show called Dave that I'm told is actually funny.
No, well, this one he becomes, he looks like the president, and the president's like in a coma or something, and so they don't want to let anybody know because
Right.
he had a heart attack while he's fucking some hooker.
Gotcha.
So-
Like Weekend at Bernie's type
Yeah,
thing.
so they bring this president in, and he gets in office, but he starts like trying to actually do stuff, like fix the budget and like do all this stuff, you know. And then eventually, like they plan it so like he dies. But I'm like, maybe that's what they're. I mean, they could. The idea of doubles. I mean,
Oh yeah.
like
Oh, absolutely.
they can scour the internet looking for someone who looks as close to somebody. Like,
Yeah, and I remember hearing stuff when I was a kid about like Saddam Hussein apparently like forcing people to get plastic surgery to look like him just in case if somebody wanted to assassinate him, that he'd have all these decoys.
yeah, why? I mean, why not? Yeah, Tanner, like the Tanners from Full House, and more Bob Saget. Yeah, I mean, they can literally do whatever the hell they want at this point. And, like
Yeah.
the FBI can literally incite an insurrection and then sit there and be like, "Nope, I can't answer that question. Can't answer that question. It's just some woman, and she's not
My
there.
goodness.
She's on Zoom."
And
You
what was
know,
that guy,
Ray Epps.
Ray Epps.
Yep.
That was the wildest thing in the world. Like that's pretty much
Who brought it up?
and that's up there. That's up there with the Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself thing. Like the normiest of normies that I have in my actual real life do not believe that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself.
He can't.
That is such a suspicious, like there's like nobody believes that, and similarly nobody who has this story put in front of their face could possibly deny that. So the only thing that you can do is distract people from paying attention to it, because Ray Epps, multiple videos of him being the only person who is literally inciting this riot or whatever,
Yeah,
this
for
breach
2
of the
days.
Capitol. He's out there actively, and people are saying, "Hey, he's a Fed. Don't listen to him." And he's out there trying to tell everybody, "We gotta storm the Capitol, do all this, blah blah blah." And then he's not even at the rally. He's there involved in taking the barriers away. And somebody pointed out,
He whispers to someone something, and then he
Yeah,
jets.
and somebody pointed out that wherever those barriers were set up, normally that is open to the public, but those barriers were there because on that particular occasion it was not open to the public. But without the barriers there, it would be reasonable for people who are familiar with the Capitol and what's normally accessible. It would be reasonable for them to not think that they're actually trespassing when they go through this opened up barrier that, as you were just saying, Ray Epps flees from before they actually show up there. All of this evidence happens, and they arrest these dumbasses that are made patsies for this and stick them in solitary confinement for the whole waiting period while they're waiting for trial. But this guy walks, and nobody seems to care.
And did you see the video where people like encountered him at? I think we've talked about this before. I've told you this, but there's a video of these two guys who found where Ray Epps lives, and I think it's in New Mexico, Arizona. It's a nice little like ranchette, probably like 40 acres, and Ray Epps is on his golf cart getting the mail, and they're like, hey, like, "Hey, Ray," and then like, of course, he doesn't say anything, or he may have said like, "I can't say anything," he drives off, and then literally like 2 weeks later, those guys, the FBI raids one of those guys' house, the one that were
I
questioning
did hear
him.
about that.
Yeah, so it's
How is this okay? Well, it's obviously not okay.
buff. Oh, Colton just said Epstein's cellmate was buff like a gorilla. Well, and then they lose the video, and then the girl who lost the video was involved in the Ghislaine trial. It's just like, it's also, they don't answer to fucking anybody. All they do is every now and then one of them gets sacrificed every now and then, and that's it. That's it. Like there is no, not that I ever thought there was justice, but there's definitely no fucking justice. But
I saw this thing where today JP Sears he might not have posted it today, but I saw it today. He's been doing a lot of really funny videos, but this one wasn't really supposed to be funny or his normal stuff at all. He was just promoting this organization that's trying to stop, sex trafficking, like human trafficking, and
yes, today was
and all
like
that.
awareness day.
Yeah, so they might have been posted today, and it just kind of made me think is like, well, one way to just undermine the regime would be to do whatever you can to undermine the human trafficking, because I mean, you're gonna have all of the public support for that, and the elites will absolutely hate that because they love human trafficking. So I like that as one
Wow,
weapon to
good
use against
idea.
them. See if we can take down some. Not don't let's not do some crazy shit like that Pizzagate thing, but
Right.
if we can actually stop some human traffickers,
Yeah.
that's a good way to piss off the regime.
Yeah. And they still, I mean, the FBI, UN, CIA, they all get caught. People who work for them get caught being child traffickers. And it's like nothing happens to them.
Well,
Like,
yeah, and I'm glad you said that because I was thinking about this part earlier. Like, because I mean, from the response they were able to, like some people have pointed out that like it kind of proves how powerful their resources are with these people who were apparently around the Capitol, thought to be involved in this insurrection from far away. They were able to find these people wherever they were. You will be found. These
Yeah.
people are real good. If they want to find you, they can probably find you. And if they want you in jail, they can probably find a way to put you in jail regardless, right? Like that's kind of a thing that is pretty well established. That said, knowing that human trafficking is on the rise, it's supposed to be one of the fastest growing industries in the world. Knowing that much of this stuff is going on and it's going on and not being stopped, add that to the fact that these intelligence communities have the resources to absolutely stop it, yet they choose not to. They're fired. They are fired.
it's absolutely true. No, it's true because I remember the insurrection, the FBI and Twitter was posting all these photos of them, and it's like, you had time to do that, but you can't post photos of child traffickers or anything like that. No, it's all about this January 6th insurrection. And fuck anybody, any normie person who's not works for the government that believes that bullshit just because it was going after
Yeah.
the government.
Yeah, they think that that's important.
Yeah, even then they stood by while businesses were burned. That's what it makes me so like I can't even.
Well, yeah, they do.
He's like, Mommy's mad.
They are not owed any respect.
No, like it's just I don't understand how like a normal. I mean, take some normal, fairly good, well-off Democrat in Denver who really thought it was okay for buildings and private businesses to burn down because of social justice. But then they think what happened on the 6th was like literally the worst fucking thing. It's like how can you even?
I don't know though. I mean, are those? How many real people are there who actually think this is like a
True?
I don't know. I mean, and it reminds
Offline,
the only thing I can even think of from real life because I don't really even know people as many as much as I do have in my own family. A lot of. Maybe not as much NPCs. Certainly, I noticed their psychosis kick in after they seemed like a real person for a while. Yes, this is my family member. And then all of a sudden, something seems to in their head. And they're just blah, blah, blah. And my mom's talking to me about it's like, believe what you want, but this is not a hoax. It's like, Mom, how many times have I told you I don't think the virus is a hoax? I think it's a real virus. What I'm saying is that we're being lied to about it and all this other stuff. So is that, but anyway, that's a tangent I didn't mean to go down.
No.
But that the only person in my real life that I can recall having mentioned anything about that event was something. There's like a group text thing with like my aunt and my sister and probably my dad, and I think it was mostly my aunt and her partner and my sister that were active in this text chat thing. She posts this like link and someone's like, oh yeah, I saw that, that's funny. And I looked at it as a YouTube link for some video, and it's this very flamboyantly gay guy that is doing this like theatrical thing from like Fiddler on the Roof, and they're doing like to the tune of tradition, but they changed the words to sedition, sedition. It was shortly after that actually happened, and so it's like these people, these like thespians, who are somewhat normie in general, like to them it's almost like funny, like ha ha, we get to like make this kind of like joke about this, but it doesn't seem like they even take it that seriously, but they do at the same time but it doesn't seem sincere. It feels like we've got them and we're going to play as if that was a big deal, because it is a big enough deal that Trump exists and that anybody supports him. It's kind of like that same mentality. It doesn't really matter if it's a stretch of the truth. We're on the right side of history, so it's okay to be disingenuous, kind of thing.
Constantly disingenuous.
But they don't really think that this was actually a big deal. I don't think.
I know. Like, you're fucking like, no one had a fucking gun. No one was armed.
Except for the guy that killed Ashley Babbitt.
Like, oh, this is, I mean, there's more crime, like actual gun crime that happens constantly. And then this is like.
I was just talking to, like, this was a real, I had a passenger the other night, this fella from Chicago, and he was just, he was talking to me about all the violence and stuff like that. He's thinking about getting out of Chicago. I think he's even thinking about moving to Denver and stuff like that. He's, you know, and I mentioned, like, yeah, you know, I think we've all kind of known that Southside can be pretty sketchy. And so he's like, yeah, I mean, but not even just the Southside anymore. Like, he's talking about other places that you wouldn't even, it's like, people are just dying right and left. And then people are getting killed for capturing it on video, for capturing evidence of the murders. Oh, he had his phone out. Better get him too.
Right. It's just like, yeah.
People are being murdered right and left. The corporate press doesn't point that out, so it obviously couldn't matter that much.
Yeah. No,
they're just a statistic.
Well, that's the soft bigotry of low expectations. They like, I mean, after everything was going on last year, it's like if they didn't bring up like citizen on citizen gun crime because they think, oh, it's just black people in Chicago, they'll always do that, and that's like, okay. You don't even know how racist you are actually being right now. You know, like they didn't even get it. Like little girls were shot at like a McDonald's drive-through, and like just all this stupid, just useless crime. Just.
And you need evidence that their brains are broken. That's that right there. We're talking about children getting killed.
Your name is Binkett.
And they're making excuses for this.
Yeah.
It's absolutely
it's wild. Colton mentioned earlier that Nashville bomb that went off. Do you remember that? Not this last Christmas, but
I don't even know if I caught wind of that.
Yeah, like
maybe I caught wind of it, but I didn't even.
This random RV pulls up. Well, I think it went away so fast because it probably was the FBI, but this RV pulls up in front of what ended up being, I believe, like a cell center or an AT&T switchboard or something like that, and it blew up. Like all of a sudden there was this like recording, and then it blew up, and like it damaged that building, and it like shook the whole block. It like fucked up cars, and fucked shit up. But then they like didn't say. I remember they said it was some like lone wolf, almost like the Las Vegas thing, and then they're like, well, we found pieces of him, and blah blah blah, and like then there was supposedly gunshots before the bomb went. I was just like, it's just one of those weird like, where they were in on it, like they play, like it was just. So weird. And then they said nothing about it. Like a fucking bomb went off in a city street, a car bomb. And then they're like, no, we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to we don't care. Oh, God.
Well, probably because, that's to a point where if they are that way about something, it's probably because it undermines some narrative they're trying to push. So it's better, as far as they're concerned, it's better if we just kind of don't talk about it.
It's
kind of like that guy that mowed all those people over with the SUV up there in Waukesha. That just wasn't that was something that, as far as like these powers that shouldn't be are concerned, like that, it would have been better if that hadn't happened because it doesn't look good for what they're trying to push. So since they can't make it not have happened, they're just going to do everything they can to dismiss it and distract from it.
Well, they did. Did you hear about the shooting that went on around Denver, like maybe 3 weeks ago? So there was someone that I ended up following on Twitter that was like, this guy had harassed him over a year ago, and this guy had like called. So this guy had the cops called on him, and the FBI had been in contact with him like 2 or 3 times before he went on this rampage. And like, it's just, they get involved. They're always there. Like the guy who, the whole Johnny Hurley shooting, like I bet you $20 that dude, the bad guy, like I bet you he had some contact with the FBI, not too much. Like this is totally conjecture, but like it wouldn't surprise me, like because he was a crazy dude, and they said he had some crime before, and I'm like, I'm sure the FBI like put this all into motion, just like all this shit, or even if they didn't, like
Yeah, they even say that about Timothy McVeigh, right?
Yeah.
That there was probably more to that story than anyone really realized.
yeah,
He wasn't just some 3%er.
no, like that's I've seen that before. Like obviously he killed people and did a terrible thing, but like leading up to it, he wasn't some like total whack job or anything. Like something happened.
He was actually involved in stuff. Did I ever tell you about this passenger that I had? It was a really strange interaction because it started off with 2 passengers until we dropped off one of his friends first, and then took this last guy the rest of the way. But they were both pretty drunk, and they were kind of like, I was trying to kind of sometimes insert in a question to kind of clarify what he was saying happened, because they're talking about being at the bar, and apparently all these people were, in their opinion, in this one guy's opinion, reacting like negatively toward him for some reason. It sounds like he was being probably obnoxious in the bar, but who knows to what extent. But I guess he keeps on playing the X-Files theme song on his phone or something like that. And after all this was like, at one point is like, yeah, can we listen to that in the car? And I was like, I'm gonna take you seriously. So I got into my Spotify app while we were at a red light, and I started playing the X-Files theme song. It's like, doo, 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 doo. But after we dropped off his friend, this guy starts talking to me, kind of real talk, while he's still, of course, drunk. But he's like, yeah, you'd be surprised how many people who have been very closely involved with government seem to end up schizophrenic. And I'm like, so you mean like they're not actually schizophrenic, but maybe they knew some things they weren't supposed to know, and in an effort to make sure that nobody would ever take them seriously, maybe they were like some strings were pulled to make people, maybe even in their own lives and their own families, believe that they are schizophrenic, so you shouldn't take anything they're saying seriously. And all he said right before he got out of the car was, it might not be wise to stick your nose where it doesn't belong, but there might be some very interesting thing if you do choose to go down that rabbit hole. It's like, ooh. But it's like, I already kind of was like, all I could, I mean, as I'm saying all of this though, I'm like, yeah, that happens. Yeah. I don't even have to go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, like I can.
Of course that happens.
Yeah. Oh Lord, these people. He's right though. But I like how he's all secretive about it. You're like, how you knew what I'd think about?
Yeah, he's all like super, like he's all like what was the word I was looking for? Like surreptitious.
God.
Sanguine.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna just show you this quick of this FBI lady because you'll like it. It's Ted Cruz, which whatever, but you start questioning these homies.
Posted, and then sometime late, want to turn to the FBI.
I hate it when Ted Cruz decides to be based, because he's such a dickhead.
I know, I can't even stand looking at him.
Sir, I'm sure you can appreciate that I can't go into the specifics of sources and methods.
Did any FBI agents or confidential informants actively participate in the events of January 6th? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Sir, I can't answer
Of
that.
course, you can't answer
Did
that.
any FBI agents or confidential informants commit crimes of violence on January 6th?
I can't answer that, sir.
Did any
You
FBI
can't
agents
answer
or
that,
FBI
sir.
informants
Then why are we
actively
even having this meeting?
and incite crimes of
Spending
violence
all
on
this
January
money.
6th?
Sir, I can't answer that.
Is that really acceptable? So that she doesn't have to get caught lying, she can just say, I'm not going to answer the question? Is that all you ever have to do in any kind of trial? Did you kill this man? I can't answer that. Oh, I guess you're innocent then.
He used to ask about Ray Epps and then watch he has visuals about Ray Epps.
What? How? Well, it's because it's completely compromised. There's absolutely wow.
Right.
That's pretty powerful.
Into the capital.
I don't know what it does, but it seems
Strange behavior,
powerful.
So strange that the crowd began chanting, "Fed, fed, 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 fed." Miss
Unbelievable.
Sandberg, would you pray us a bed?
Sir, I cannot answer that question.
I almost want to think this is
On
doctored.
January 6th,
I know.
Every single question he asks, all she has to do is say, "I can't answer that."
Yeah, I can't answer
Well,
that.
if you weren't awake before, you better be awake now, or at least just admit that you are a dumbass that doesn't deserve to have an opinion, because like,
What's her position? What's the point of having that position if they aren't held liable or responsible for anything?
and what's the point of having these hearings if they can't answer any question where apparently the truth would be something that would be harmful to something. I mean, you almost can't even put it into words. This is stranger than fiction. You couldn't even put this in a movie and have it work because it's not realistic.
No.
It's not realistic for a plot that you're writing you couldn't put this in an episode of what's that show, House of Cards. It would be really, really lazy and stupid writing.
Yep. But and then she's not even there. She's on Zoom. No one has to actually go anywhere. I mean, the Fauci was there this morning. Oh, and Fauci, and then the lady who's the CDC, Walensky, she showed up double masked. She had 2 masks live, and she's supposedly triple jab. Like, these people, it's just getting to the point where it's like making people like us, like, we're just like, are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? With all the craziness we've already, and it's the other people think, oh, this craziness is like normalized it, but for us, it's like, no, like we can't be getting more crazy. What is going on?
Yeah, and I imagine some of these feds actually even watching videos of like a stream like this, and simply like sitting to themselves like, yeah, you think you're so smart because you see it all, but it's all really easy to see, so you're not actually as smart as you really are. But the funny thing is, you're not gonna do anything about it.
It's true.
And I'm like, okay, Fed,
Okay, Fed.
you win. Yes, it's not impressive that I can see the obvious, and yes, you still win because I can't do anything about it. Do you want a cookie? I'll bake you whatever kind of cookie you. No, I won't. What am I talking about? I'm not gonna bake you cookies.
I want to seduce my Fed, and like I was saying the other day, because I am pretty good at the art of seduction, right? I'm not to be braggy, but I just can. If someone doesn't like me, it's because I don't want them to like me. That's why. But I was thinking the other day, like, if I could, I could infiltrate these fuckers so good. Like, I should have been a Fed because I could infiltrate, but if I could, we could reverse it and get in on it, like the Project Veritas. Project Veritas should hire me. Oh, we got another Russian in here, but I would love to oh yeah, just like you said, because they're just watching us laughing and just saying there's nothing you can do about it.
I mean, yeah, probably. I don't see how they have any. Well, I guess I can sometimes I do think in terms of the idea of the Christian theology of Satan and stuff like that. It's because if you think in terms of what Satan's plot is thought to be, which is that he knows that ultimately he goes into the lake of fire and spends an eternity there, and there's absolutely no winning. Then what is he even trying to do? Well, he's just trying to make sure that as many people are deceived as possible, so that they don't get to know, and trust in Jesus and end up being saved, because he kind of hates he hates everybody, and he wants everybody to burn with him. And it's kind of it is difficult to grasp, because that's not really normal person logic, but it is kind of that's the logic of this person that just wants to see the world burn, and they can even be proud of not really even being that clever, just being successful in their schemes, and they're proud of this even though they know that they are that they're that they're not really doing anything to be applauded by anybody. I don't know. It's weird.
It's true. These sickos do satanic child abuse rituals. I mean, yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, they literally do at like Bohemian Grove. Well, it might not be. They might not be
Actual.
abusing actual children at Bohemian Grove, but they're doing the Moloch child sacrifice ritual, and I'm pretty sure that they do consider all of these unborn babies. You know, I think they do consider that a win, that they are. I mean, regardless of what somebody thinks is the morality of that. I mean, these are high numbers, and I believe that there are people at the top who are pushing this stuff, who feel that they have successfully killed babies.
Right. Yeah, they think it's their doing, kind of.
Yeah, and they're
like,
proud of themselves, and this is like this is their gift to Moloch or whatever.
It's true. And what they're doing now with the whole like vaccinating 5-year-olds and shit.
Oh
like,
my
it's-
goodness.
And masking
Yeah, and that
them.
NPR thing, that wow, because I only caught like a little bit of that on the radio, and I don't usually ever listen to anything from NPR. I remember like that was always, my dad was always listening to
They
NPR
used
when
to
I was
like
a
have
kid
kind
and
of
stuff like
interesting
that.
stories
I
on
liked
back
the
in the
theme
day.
song. It was always playing when I was getting picked up from preschool. And bam, 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 bam,
Yeah.
bam, bam. But and this is NPR news. And but there, I mean, this lady is talking about all these child hospitalizations, which, as we already been over, Fauci later is like, well, you know, a lot of these kids, they broke their leg and they got a positive test. They're not really sick with COVID. They're hospitalized with COVID. Without mentioning that it's like, yeah, that's the case for all of these hospitalizations,
two
that
years,
you
right.
haven't had any problem with CNN and their misinformation presenting these numbers as if, well, yeah, and as Dave Smith pointed out, this like some like Libertarian Party county chair had commented him on him saying something about that, like, okay, like, what does this really mean? And the guy being like, I'm pretty sure that if they're in the hospital, it's probably pretty serious. It's like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to assume. That's why all they tell you is the numbers, because reasonably speaking, those numbers wouldn't be relevant unless it was because, yeah, all these people are so seriously ill that they need to be in the hospital. But no, Fauci said so himself. Like, we're going to count it regardless of why they're in the hospital and regardless of whether they are actually sick with COVID.
Right. Kids having vaccine. Oh, I know.
And they're saying under 5. And the thing on NPR that really pissed me off was that this lady goes on to saying is like, well, all these children, all these child hospitalizations, and then they just mention, well, what do we do? How do we make sense of all of this? Well, the FDA hasn't approved the vaccines for any children under 5. And my doctor friend said that these kids, some of them are really young. Yeah. Did your doctor friend tell you whether any of them were really sick? Like, or how many children we're talking about?
Right.
Or whether he actually thinks, or I mean, even if he does, whether it matters.
Right.
Whether he thinks that kids under 5 should be, like, why would you say that unless you're evil and you want to stick this stuff in 3-year-olds?
Colton was saying, I don't know how people can see all these viral videos of the kids having vaccine injury and still get their kids jabbed. Just in general, that the numbers.
Are they seeing them?
I don't. Yeah.
I don't think they're seeing them. I think they are. I think they're more likely if somebody shoves it in their face to just make some quick excuse and get really angry and refuse to even look at it.
Right. And they'll only look at numbers of COVID. They won't look at the vaccine injury numbers, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that some of these numbers of quote COVID deaths are actually injury deaths, but
they can't count it because if they had a positive COVID test, then they'll count it for that, even if they just got the vaccine or something. Like, they're fiddling with shit like that.
Well, yeah, and why wouldn't they?
Molden Skull says, watching and seeing your videos and posts has certainly opened my eyes to what's really going on. Good. That's good to hear. I'm batshit crazy, so hopefully you're following other people too who are smarter than me. But
well, at least you're honest.
yeah, I'm honest. I'm crazy, but I'm honest. And people
You're
still,
just looking at stuff that doesn't make sense, and you're like, how does this make sense?
yeah, that's how it's like been my whole life. Anytime something's not made sense, I've always just been like, okay,
And that's largely why we became friends.
yeah. People still listen to that piece of shit Fauci. I know Liz and Dickie, pretty staggered to see how parents can put their kids forward for this. The human race has really gone down in my estimation. Yes, I'm not a parent, but it is really weird to see. Luckily, my nieces and nephews should be fine. No one's pressuring them for that. But mold and skull. Now seeing doctors argue with UK Health Secretary with health. So, are mold and skull? Are you in the UK? With the facts is incredible. That's good to hear. It's a strong delusion. 2 Thessalonians 2:11. Do you know what that verse is?
Let's look it up.
The best people always are crazy, I'm assuming is what you mean. Yes, we are. We're the best people.
Well, one of my favorite quotes, which is right now my banner on Twitter, was from C.S. Lewis, and it says that when the world is running toward a cliff, the one running in the opposite direction appears to have lost his mind.
Yeah. I made a post about this the other day from The Never-Ending Story. If you read the whole book, the movie's only part of it, but
Ooh, I need to read that.
yeah, the whole book
I
is
love the movie.
amazing. And the movie's only like the first little bit. The rest of it's so good. Oh, he's in Plymouth. Okay.
Wow, did it already get buried? 2 Thessalonians
2:11. It's right here.
Oh.
But at one point he's the nothing is still gaining ground, and it's eating up part of the kingdoms and stuff. And at one point he's by the nothing, or he's walking somewhere, and he's starting to feel the effects of the nothing. And all of a sudden he hears these like, in my mind when I read the book, I picture like the Hare Krishnas like banging drums and like something like that, but they're going straight towards the nothing, and they're just throwing themselves into it.
Oh,
and they're
yeah.
like, they're fools,
Ooh.
but they're happy, and they're like, and they're
Yeah.
just jumping into it. And I'm like,
that's a strong theme right there, because that's the thing about like, some of this stuff. And I've been listening to more and more. I just became a website member for this podcast called The Church of the Eternal Logos, because he breaks down a lot of this kind of spiritualism and stuff like that as kind of a former, like, very similar to the way I used to live my life. A lot of new agey stuff, and kind of subscribing to like kind of the Alan Watts kind of worldview and stuff like that. But now he's breaking this stuff down as an Orthodox Christian. And yeah, he's mentioning how like a lot of this stuff kind of amounts to like the destruction of personhood.
yeah,
How like it's like a religion of nothingness. It's a religion of death,
yeah,
which according to Christian theology, yeah, that's exactly like what the enemy wants us all to do, is die.
yeah, like that's their point. That's what he's doing.
So 2 Thessalonians 2:11, and for this reason God will send them strong delusion, that they should believe the lie, that they all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. Yep.
We're all fed, so that's fine. Yeah, that was a good verse. Who posted it? Good job, Escape from Babylon. That was a good verse.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
I want to live in my own delusions. I like my own delusions. I don't want a group delusion, but I want to be like her all day, every day.
But unfortunately, that's the problem, is that when people who are committed to controlling the world through lies and deception, when they're successful in their endeavors, they also get to choose what lies and deception that you're allowed to subscribe to.
Yep. It's fucked. It's fucked up. I was trying to explain this point. Like, I think you could probably get it, because like our old, like, just think of society before COVID and all that. Like, it wasn't a society I necessarily fit into well. It wasn't
Sure.
like something but I was able to make my own reality within the real reality, which I'll say,
Yeah.
like the real reality.
I get what you're saying.
Like, you can make your own life while still you're not like out of it, but
Yeah.
now they're making it impossible to make our own realities. Like, we
Yeah.
can't.
Which, yeah, in some sense, I almost kind of see some like grace in that, like, to some extent, because I mean, I can kind of relate to that in some way too, that like this is kind of really, I mean, I'd already been sort of dealing with disillusionment around that time. Like I'd been kind of getting red pilled on some of this weird stuff, like you know the Jordan Peterson stuff, and kind of getting red pilled that like as much as I was never getting on board with the Trump stuff, that like the more I started realizing how far they were going with lies and slander and manipulation, obfuscating the truth, it really made me want to pay attention. And I was already coming from a place where my worldview was leaving me in a sort of excruciating nihilism, where I was questioning whether there was any point to existing.
Right.
And Jordan Peterson kind of comes along and has this message about how it's actually psychologically important to have some sense of purpose in your life. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. And then, I was like kind of still on this sort of like, well, maybe, I got to determine my purpose and act purposefully in life, which is good. But then I was still trying to go in my own direction. And then suddenly I don't have that choice anymore. And in some sense, that's made it easier for me to focus on getting on the straight and narrow because, well, I can't even go on the windy, crazy psychedelic road that I was going down before. So I guess I might as well go on the straight and narrow.
That's true. It was like, it did work out, but she hold a little paw. But she keeps running around on it. You gotta stop hurting yourself. We got UK people and Canada and communist CBC. Yeah. Everything's fucked, man. But at least we can still stream and talk openly until, I'm not a big enough account. I don't think they'll pull me down anytime soon, but
there's alternatives though. I've kind of like, I'm going to revive my Left Field Liberty podcast here pretty soon, but it's not going to just be on YouTube because I can't do what I want to do and work my way around the censors, or at least I refuse to. So when I do, it's going to be on the other like Odyssey and BitChute. And I already do have a Getter account. I also don't, everyone's super suspicious. I don't know.
Let's see
in any case, though, their character limits aren't as stringent as they are on Twitter. If enough people go over there, it at least could be. I can't imagine it being worse than Twitter. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. Whatever. Like there's
people are on it.
You're fed. What are you doing?
The only reason, really, why I like Twitter more than the idea of something like Parler or Gab or Getter or something like that is I kind of like to be able to talk to the people on that
don't believe the same.
Yeah, that are on the side of all of the wrong things.
I don't know. Liz just asked how long will my freedom last. I don't know. I have the new Twitter account, which is The Desert Daddy, but they could easily, I don't have a separate VPN or anything. It's a separate email and stuff, but I'm like, they could easily, because other people got banned for that.
And don't make the mistake that you made before, because the thing is that I'm sure that they would have
titties.
They would have been more than happy to cancel you, but but that makes me think that they wouldn't have had as strong of an excuse for doing so, right. And then you gave them the one thing that's like a very clear violation of their rules, which I can't even defend that they shouldn't have that rule, as much as I think that yours was a relatively tasteful example. Plus, he did it by accident. Yes. But if you don't do stuff like that, your chances of getting yeeted are probably a little bit less.
Yeah.
Until enough people are paying attention to you.
You can't. Oh, she's like she enjoys with the Twitties too. Yeah.
Not in your profile pic, because
tits.
if they allow that in the profile pic, then they have to allow dudes to just put their cock in the profile pic.
But you can have hardcore porn on the timeline all you want. It's just not in your profile pic.
Yeah, which it makes sense.
So on Christmas, I changed my profile pic on Christmas to a picture I've used before of me like sitting in the forest naked. I actually have used the uncensored version before, no problem. But I meant to put a censored one in because it's just like
that was the one that you always had as your profile pic, which was a censored one. It's a very picturesque. It's honestly more beautiful than Michelangelo's David. Like it.
Thank you.
Really was.
Thank you. Check some of them out. No, yeah, it's just silly. I get it, but it's like, yeah. I think I don't know if someone reported me because I was up for like 2 hours still when everything was working fine. And then I went to bed and then I woke up and it was banned. Yeah, it was just titties in the profile. Let's look.
You have to blur the nipples.
You have to blur the nipples, what you said. You've seen the censored one. It's just,
Unless you zoom up, you can't really tell the difference.
I know. They like, I'm like, in the picture, it's like, it's kind of from a distance. It's
Yeah,
not even
and
close.
so much of the picture is nature,
yes.
like rocks and trees and plant life.
And even around
It's
me, I had like
beautiful.
flowers.
Yeah, it
I had
was-
a feather thing on.
It was art. It was arguably art.
It
It was
is
not
art.
pornographic.
But according to the titty is titty, so.
Although I guess to say it's not pornographic, I mean, it definitely was hot. So,
I mean, nudity is. You know,
well, it's like the guy that says, like,
It's-
I can't give you a definition of pornography, but I know it when I see it.
right, yeah, like it'll just be hot if it's hot. I do love that. It is such a good Forest Mommy picture because it's just like, you know, like it'd be better. I should like put animals in it somehow, like Photoshop animals into it. Yeah, getting back to it was so annoying because they pulled me when I was at 18K. But yeah, I'm back to 10K.
You should put a whole bunch of like you should Photoshop a bunch of Sarah like from different
Yeah.
angles. She's just a bunch of Sarah cats all around you.
I wanted someone to do. I need to ask someone to do it, but I was thinking, how cool would a mountain lion be? That Siamese cat color. Wouldn't that be so cool?
It would,
Like-
especially if it's got the lynx ears with the little tufts.
Yeah, like it would just be the real dark face, but it would be a mountain lion because it'd be like a puma, half mountain lion kind of because they're black.
But
you
the
know,
lynx
it's
thing
like-
would be more bobcat.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
It just would be cute with the seal point color on a big cat. That's what I think about in my
Yeah.
free time.
I like the idea of my cat like as a like still with her cute little face, but she's a panther.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how you would necessarily convey that it's a big wild panther and still maintain her cute little derpy face, but I still like it. I still like this one meme I saw a while ago that I hope I can find again if I didn't save it, because the caption was just something like, "My sister won't stop putting our cat on pictures of bees," and it was a black cat that looked so much like my cat, and it was. I've already thought that she would look so cute in a little bumblebee costume.
Aw, you should do it then.
Yeah, I need to put her face on a bee.
Yeah, Liz, I thought that too. I was like, how do they know what I identify as? What if I identify as male? Because obviously
Yeah.
I'm not like, you know, I don't
That
have
would be an
gigantic
amazing
titties,
troll
but-
too. Like if you seriously, because you keep the desert daddy, and then you can even put in your profile he, him, I am a trans man, and then put in your profile picture your nipples, and then be like, men can show nipples. I don't understand what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. Why? And they assumed my gender. That's
I wouldn't
really
risk
terrible.
it if I were you though,
won't.
because
I might try and appeal again
if
with
they
the other
eat your
one, but-
account, they eat your account. So
Yep. And there's nothing I can do about it. They didn't even ask me to take it. That's what was more annoying. Is they didn't say, "Hey, this picture has nips in it. Can you take it?"
yeah, they
down?"
couldn't even take on good faith that, like, even if if you'd already gotten a strike or something, that they couldn't at least listen to you and
Give me a
consider that
12-hour
you're honest
ban.
when you're saying, like, look, I didn't realize that was the uncensored version of that picture, and I'm more than happy to take that down and be extra careful not to do that again. Yeah, it annoys me that well, the rules is the rules, and we're not giving. Well, that's what makes me think that really they would have loved to take down your account anyway,
Right.
and just use that as an excuse.
We're in Colorado. She's from Texas, but she's visiting the UK right now. That's a big trip.
That's cool.
Everyone from Texas moves to Colorado. Well, I feel like it's slowed down.
I
a
mean,
little
yeah,
bit.
well, because everyone's moving to Texas right now
Yeah.
from everywhere, and I think that did slow down the moving from Texas to Colorado, which would have had a different motivation.
Yeah.
And when the motivation has to do with escaping commie restrictions, Colorado is more commie than Texas
Yeah.
right now. We got to do something about. I mean, I'm starting to really rethink my purism of libertarianism, and that, like, no, I've never been such a purist that I would disparage anybody else for voting, but my general convictions are that we shouldn't lend any kind of gesture of legitimacy
To the process.
to it, like, because by participating in it, we are somehow kind of saying that we think it's legitimate. There's also I also always appreciated the self-defense argument that, well, if they're voting against our rights, then we should at least vote for our rights. Still seems kind of trivial, like it's not really going to do anything. But that said, on the local level, sometimes things can happen, and I think it's if there's any chance of getting Polis out of there, I feel it is kind of my moral obligation to
And
participate.
he's really fooling people too, right? Someone the other day
We
said
got to get
something
him out.
like,
We can't
"Oh,
let
but
this guy.
at least he's a little bit more like libertarian." I'm like,
No,
no,
by no means.
he is a liar. Yeah, don't ever. If anyone says Governor Polis from Colorado is libertarian, it's a lie. He ruined lives for 2 years, and he's trying to go. He wants to get
He's
reelected.
pandering because he knows that enough of the Colorado voters do value freedom enough. He's just trying to see if he can grift some people into.
I shouldn't be in control of this. This isn't my call. Oh, well,
No.
then what was the last 2 years of you it being your fucking call?
And how the hell are you reinstating mask mandates when things are getting better?
Yeah. Well, he
No,
said he's like,
you're fired.
no, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it personally.
You didn't stop it, so fuck
Yeah,
you.
I know. And well, what? And the dumb part is like in Denver County is controlled by the Colorado Health Department, like the big one. Well, guess who's the head of the Colorado Health Department was just this lady that Polis put in that position. Like and then all these stupid county ones they're idiots too. They're just like ladies who are put in these positions.
Yeah, you don't get to delegate your tyranny to other people and then claim to have no part in it.
Yeah. Motherfucker. Drive me nuts. Yeah, we do. There was one guy at one of those rallies I went to that was going to run for governor. He seemed pretty cool.
Yeah.
But
and it's like, those kinds of excuses cannot be taken seriously. No. If you are a governor, already you have power that you shouldn't have. But if you don't use that power to oppose the draconian policies, then you are an active part of the problem, and you are a criminal, and you are fired.
And you're impotent.
Period.
Like you're either a tyrant or impotent.
Yeah. Either you have no balls, and you don't, there's no reason why anybody should keep you in that position, or you are an evil person that is abusing your power. Yeah. There's no other way.
I remember I got him on Forest Mommy account. I got him to respond to something at one point. Where
he responded to me on Facebook once. My mom was worried because I called him a tyrant, and she was like afraid I was going to get arrested. And I was like, that's really your legitimate fear, that you think I'm going to get arrested for criticizing the governor? And you aren't concerned that this is a fascist country and we should all be very concerned? Like, what? Your own son might be arrested, you think, for calling the governor a tyrant? Like, I still can't believe she said that.
That when people say stuff that just makes no sense like that, you're just like, oh, what the fuck? No, I remember he was having a flu shot party, and this was earlier on. This is probably going into 2021. And he was like, we're having a flu shot party at the governor's mansion, and like there's all these people there and all this, and I'm like, you're having a fucking party and I'm not allowed to go dancing or something. And he's like, ooh. And he responded on Twitter. He's like, I'm just trying to be a good example. And I'm like, oh my God.
Be a good example of somebody who goes and fucks himself. Like,
all the governors are giving executive. Yeah, that's the thing. And that's what really pissed me off about Trump, because Trump's putting that emergency order gave the tyrant governors more power.
Yeah, he's part of the problem. Yeah. Anyone that thinks that, well, that's the third that drives me crazy too, about how this guy's calling my buddy a Trumper for overhearing him on the phone, saying something about the mask mandates, maybe in a light of it not being a good thing, like that's enough to call him a Trumper. It's like, Trump is, I mean, I think Trump has supported the mask thing, but I mean, it's still the Trump vaccine. It's still his Operation Warp Speed. He's still the one saying that you're the one that you need to do this. The idea that you would try to assume that oh, you must be one of these Trump people if you oppose the COVID regime. Trump is the COVID regime.
Yeah, he was in it when it. And now, yeah, exactly. And there's that they say anti-vaxxers are Trumpers. It's like, well, Trump is pro-vax. So how can you?
The best way I could explain my dad when he brought that whole thing up, when I told it, because I had to point that out, and he's really good, like at least in like letting me kind of make
Say
my
stuff.
case and stuff like that. And he'll ask me like good challenging questions and stuff like that. Still frustrating because every time I talk to him, it's like we never had the last conversation. Might be partly the Parkinson's, less also maybe partly the mass formation psychosis thing, but because I've given him my answers almost every time I talk to him on the phone. So why aren't you getting this vaccine? It's like after I ranted at you for 3 hours the other day, you still don't understand. but that I'm like, no, you realize like Trump is actually trying to encourage people to do that, and I was kind of trying to explain to him in a sense that it's like, okay, so there may be some correlation between Trump supporters and people who oppose this stuff, but it's not the cultists. It's not the ones that hang on his every word, because the ones that hang on his every word are going and getting the shot because Trump said it's a good vaccine and it's a safe vaccine. The cultists who hang on his every word are doing that. The ones that may have supported him and are standing up against this stuff, there's probably a stronger correlation between them and like Christians. And there's the only correlation I would imagine between Christians and Trump supporters would be that this idea of like supporting maybe a lesser of two evils, because they would look at somebody like Hillary Clinton and be like, well, she is obviously on the side of evil and wickedness.
Right.
So we have to at least go on the other side of that, but as obviously they're still making a mistake. They're still being deceived. Lord have mercy.
Lord have mercy. I don't know if you want to keep going. It's 10 after 5. I know you had to go at a certain.
I definitely wanted to make sure I was trying to head that way by 5:30.
Okay.
So within maybe cut it off in about 5.
All right. We're probably gonna cut it off in like 5 minutes. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah,
We'll
let's
take some
engage with our
questions.
audience. You
But
guys have
someone
been
did say-
commenting. Sorry if we haven't been.
No, it's good because
addressing
someone
your
was
stuff.
like, I was gonna ask your opinion on Trump, but we gave it.
Yeah.
Our opinion.
Yeah, we got into
Someone
it.
what did Escape from Babylon says Trump is just a Trojan horse for Agenda 2030.
Yeah, I think he kind of probably is. It's hard for me to even see him as the actual oppositional figure, as much as he does appear to have legitimately pissed off the deep state. For all we know, that was all a deep fake.
Exactly.
And now and it served, and regardless of whether this was intentional, it served the purpose of getting people to not be concerned about the CIA. Left-wing people had previously distrusted the CIA.
Right.
Now any speak against the deep state is now also clumped in with this QAnon like
Yeah.
label. Like, are you serious?
It's all so dumb. An art stream. I should do an art stream and try and draw on a stream. Everyone can make fun of me.
I'm gonna do some music streams.
Oh yeah, and
You
he's
should
gonna.
definitely do your art stream.
You for now. You what's your you have it. Your YouTube is still there for right now, right?
Yeah, I think it's just labeled on there as well. It's gonna have the name David Gravy, and it's gonna be Left Field Liberty.
So
And
follow that.
There's some really old videos over there. I have a feeling if I watch them now, I'll be too embarrassed to leave them up. But I'm gonna put up new videos that are shorter and more refined. So if you want to subscribe, I like that.
Just start
I'll hopefully
somewhere.
bring you
know?
some stuff soon.
Cat. She hates it when you do this.
Well, of course, that's my kitty hates that too, but she has to put up with it.
And she hates
Yes. Oh yeah, they don't like it when your face gets close to
No,
their
they're
face. They're like, I'm supposed to oppose this.
I'm dying. I'm dying because your face is so close. No, she's all mad.
Maybe it's
I'm
because
sorry. You didn't like that.
maybe their instinct is that you're obviously going to eat them or something.
Right. Maybe the eye. And especially front-facing eyes is a predator thing,
Yeah.
right? So
And cats are predators and prey animals, and they don't like being unable to escape.
yes.
Even if they are very affectionate and actively cuddling you, if you make them think they can't get away, if they feel threatened, then
They
suddenly
get
they
mad.
are unsafe. Yeah.
they just turn to fight or flight. Just take my yeah, Liz. I think a lot of people are doing that. Actually, I made a friend out here in the Mises Caucus, her and her husband that live right over here, and they're like, "We're out. They're moving to Florida. They'll probably like live in RV for a little bit, but they're buying land in there. And I'm like, damn it. And she was going to run for city council. So now I'm like,
The
do I
R-
have to run for city council? And then I'll be like, listen, there's nudes out there. All right, people, let's just get that out.
yeah, but I
That'd
mean,
be
that's
my
the thing
worst
is that nowadays you can't worry about that stuff at all. Even as myself, if I just want to be on a Christian sort of mission, and I want, and if I were to really end up, getting seen by enough people, yeah, there's probably stuff floating around on the internet that would be incredibly humiliating and discrediting to me. But yeah, I've already had to decide that's not going to matter because, well, it can't.
Yeah, like
If
it's
I'm
just
speaking the truth now, it doesn't. I don't care what cringy
take
stuff
me or
I've done in the
leave me.
past. In fact, a
Mm.
pastor of mine once said that if the enemy ever tries to remind you of your past, you remind him of his future.
Ooh, Larry, that's good. Why don't we end on that? That's good. All right, everyone, we're gonna end it. Thanks for hanging out. That was good. A lot of people were contributing. We try to do these every Tuesday. I'll be back in town by Tuesday next week, so we can do it. But yeah, follow me. I'm at the Desert Daddy on Twitter. Yours at Spirit_Lama. Follow us if you don't follow us already, and we will talk to y'all soon.
Yes.
Peace out.